late night, they ain't getting no rest. Work so hard, people think I'm obsessed. Cream at the crop, won't settle for no less. Headed to the top, arena so focused. Yeah, gorilla of the jungle, I've been beating on my chest. I learned from the struggle, it was all just a test.
Hey guys, welcome back. So today is Technical Tuesday. We're going to jump into the charts, do some technical analysis. We're going to focus specifically on Bitcoin and crypto today. They are moving pretty aggressively, outperforming the stock market. Stock market also getting a bit of a bounce today. So we're just going to jump over here. First thing I want to show you is this Bitcoin liquidation heat map. So if you haven't seen this before, essentially what this tells you is the levels where traders have their stop losses or where they will get liquidated. So as the price kind of moves, you know, we get pumps, we get dumps, you get a lot of traders who kind of enter a little bit late, and you see they're represented by these yellow bars. So the yellow bars represent liquidity to the upside and downside. Lots of the times you will see market makers pushing price up into these liquidity zones to stop out these traders, take their money, and then kind of going from there, either reversing back to other targets or ultimately just continuing with the price action that we're given. So right here, we were looking at this. I showed you this in the video a few days ago. We were saying, you know, we had a long from the lower range here, saying that we were targeting this upper liquidity region here. We have broken out, taken out all this liquidity here. You can see we've just gotten above it. So all the liquidity to the upside that was previously there is gone. And now we have this liquidity to the downside here at around 87,650. So looking at this could be a potential opportunity for a trade. Why I say to just kind of why we pay attention to these is because we want to recognize, you know, if there's more room to run up to take that liquidity out, or if we've taken out all that liquidity, we've had that move, and now we have to see how the market digests it. So for now, it did kind of play out how we expected, making that move to the upside, grabbing that liquidity, and then we'll see either we'll come back and retest these levels. Otherwise, if price can hold the support level right through here, so we can kind of see, you know, all this price action through here, this choppy price action, that is now horizontal support. If it can hold, you know, we can continue this trend to the upside. We're going to look at our Bitcoin ETF flows here really quickly. We can see we got a major inflow yesterday. Not a major inflow, but a bigger inflow than we've been getting in kind of the prior days here. So about 380 million coming in yesterday, 106 million before then, and then we also had this 1.5 million, but we did have some outflows in here as well, about 170 million. So net, you know, you're looking at about $300 million of inflows kind of within the last week for the Bitcoin ETF. That being said, we did also experience the major outflows. So these were the biggest outflows we've seen in the ETF since the launch. You can see that's where price started dropping all the way down, going down 30% to 74,000. So we did basically notice that the ETF buyers were taking profits. That's also one of the warning signals we looked at. So it's something we need to pay attention both to the up and downside when we start to see those inflows. So that's something we're going to want to watch. We want to see this trend continue, and we don't want to see it flip back to outflows here. If we go straight back to outflows, that tells me this was just kind of that move to lure in that liquidity before dumping on them. But for now, we're getting that uptrending price action with higher highs, higher lows on the low time frame here. So we're going to jump into our charts, see what's going on. We're going to start here on USDT dominance. So Tether dominance, we talked about this. Ideally, we want to see it breaking down for Bitcoin and altcoins to go on to perform well, and that's what's happening today. Bitcoin up 3.5%, USDT dominance down 3%. We see the bearish momentum picking up a little bit here on the 3-day chart. We did get a bearish cross of the vortex indicator. You know, RSI is trending down. We got our bearish cross of the MACD, and our DMI is kind of losing that momentum right through here. So we could be due to come back and retest some lower levels. I'm not really sure if it's going to play out like the prior example I have marked over here. So this was the previous cycle. We kind of came up, you know, came in, put in our lows. had this kind of this trend line we were climbing here, and then we broke down from that trend line, came back, retagged that 0.5 Fibonacci, kind of coming, potentially even retesting the 200-day moving average, and then we continued up from there, and that was a bear market here. So this was kind of just that dead cat bounce, like right in through here, this drop that was not enough to really send everything to all-time highs or to new highs. This was the dead cat bounce of the cycle, so we need to be aware. We want a sustained downtrend. So for now, if for something similar were to play out, you could see we'd come back somewhere around that 0.5 Fibonacci. We also have the 200-day moving average and quite a bit of support in this region here. So if we do see a bounce here and that push up in USDT dominance, it could be resembling the prior cycle move, and that could be our signal that it's just a dead cat bounce. But we won't be sure of that until we actually get that confirmation on the chart. When you look at the actual indicators and we see here where we've broken down from this trend line, it's actually kind of a bit of a similar setup. So you can see or red ADX line on top, blue positive line, and then the negative line coming up, breaking above it. So same thing here. We don't have that bearish cross yet, but we do have them converging towards each other. So very similar setup on the technical side of things. So whether we get a durable breakdown back to these lower targets down here and actually get a sustainable rally in altcoins is really going to depend. We'll just be following this. But ultimately, we look at the charts. The charts tell us what is happening. If we take a look at the high time frame here on Bitcoin, so the 3-day, we can pretty much see, looking at the similar setups to this prior cycle over here. So this is that dead cat bounce that I talked about, where we came down, we came, tagged our 200-day moving average, got a little push up, weren't able to really take out that 50-day. So that's the difference here. We have broken above the 50-day moving average. So we didn't do that over here on the dead cat bounce before we broke below our 200. So you can see essentially we came down, we tagged our 200-day moving average right here. I'll just draw that in for you. So tag the 200-day there. That's what we did over here. We tagged our 200-day moving average. We came up, we weren't able to break that 50-day moving average right here. We actually have broken it. So that's one difference that I see so far. We had not able to get out here, but also a breakout here. That being said, we are at resistance. So just because we have broken slightly above the 50-day or poked out above the 50-day doesn't mean that we have to stay above it or that it holds as support. Holding as support is kind of what is the difference for me between getting another leg up or getting that dead cat bounce move. So we're just paying attention to that. We want to see that uptrending price action continue. So we're going to zoom in, look for those higher lows. In terms of the indicators though, you can see here, even on the dead cat bounce, we came from very oversold on our indicators, and it wasn't enough to really take us to new highs. So when people tell you that just because we're oversold on the indicator, same thing that we saw over here, that's a similar DMI setup that we're getting right here. It's a similar vortex indicator setup we're kind of getting. That being said, we also recognize the RSI and the MACD. Despite the fact they did go to oversold territory, our price can continue down. Same thing that we saw over here, very oversold, actually more oversold than the current price action. So you can see, we were more oversold in this move than we were over here. So it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. We have to use everything together to get a really good idea of what's going on. We're going to flip to the 4-hour and we're going to zoom in on our price action over here and see what's going on. So I'll just zoom in on that for you. I'll clean this up here. And we can see essentially we were stuck under this downsloping trend line here. We came in, we put in a double bottom, we put in that higher low, we came up, we got above our low time frame moving averages, that 8-day, 21-day EMA. We broke out of the long downtrend here. this is where we entered that swing position, and then ultimately, you know, we were able to take advantage of this price action, and this price action. I exited this swing trade a little bit too soon, but that's okay. I would rather exit early and book profits than round trip, especially when I saw the weakness in the stock market. You know, no one's got a crystal ball. I can't predict what stuff's gonna do, but I can be in control of booking profits and compounding those profits. So in this time, basically from the lows to the highs, Bitcoin's moved 22%. So even if you perfectly timed the bottom and you held until now, you're only up 22%, and that doesn't factor if you bought into this downtrend here. So you might have been buying up here and then buying into the downtrend. You might only even be break even on those buys. Why I kind of am pointing this out is just showing you the power of de-risking when the trend changes. So $97,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin, you know, trend is starting to change. A lot of warning signs coming up. We de-risk, we kind of book our profits, protect that capital, we avoid the downside, and then we made 42% on our swing trading portfolio in that time. So not only did we book profits, we protected the capital, we mitigated the downside, we also outperformed to the upside by utilizing the same strategies but on a lower time frame. So just our swing trading, you know, looking at 42% returns, we've doubled the performance from the lows to the highs currently for Bitcoin, and we also booked our profit and we're able to use those profits to build our cash position, as well as take advantage and kind of get free entry positions into other assets. So really good job doing that. Now we're just sitting into resistance. This is that no man's land kind of move that I talk about. You know, I'm not interested in buying resistance. I would rather wait for that higher low retest. So we can see here, when we look at the 4 hour, you know, it's looking really good for momentum, getting that breakout on the DMI. The Vortex is bullish, the MACD is looking bullish, the RSI is bullish, but it's getting to that extended region on the 4 hour. So I do expect a little bit of retracement back to retest those higher levels. When we look at the weekly chart here, it's looking pretty good. We see the DMI curling up, Vortex curling up, RSI with that bullish cross, and MACD also looks like it's curling. So we do have the potential to go on another leg here. But if we look at the weekly chart, it kind of gets rid of a lot of the noise. You see, we haven't had that back test of the higher lows. So for a macro sense of the move, this is what I'm looking for. We broke out of the downtrend, we pumped up, we're probably going to find resistance in through here. This is pretty heavy resistance, and then we pulled our Fibonacci level from the low to the high. Right now that is lining up at about 79,500, right in the middle of that golden zone. So I'm going to be targeting that for a swing trade entry, or a potential larger swing trade entry, looking with a stop loss just below this support. And then if we get that higher low here, another higher high and higher low to confirm that trend on the weekly, then I'm going to add to that position on the subsequent higher low and ride it to the upside. That's my plan kind of on the high time frame. If we zoom into the very low time frame, I also have a bit of a plan here. We can see we had our breakout. So this is the low time frame plan, essentially, you know, just kind of playing a back test of this bull flag. So bull flag pattern, breakout. For now on the 1 hour, you know, looks like it's coming up to this level here. That's going to be kind of the top resistance zone. We could poke out a little bit higher, but ultimately looking for that level. We're going to have to adjust our Fibonacci's as this kind of climbs here. So you can see as that high moves, you do have to adjust the Fibonacci level, and that's going to adjust our entry slightly. So we see here with this, we've got the 50-day acting as support. We've got our Fibonacci support zone. We've got this down sloping trend line from the bull flag breakout, and that is an opportunity to enter there. Otherwise, looking for that potential down here in the sub $80,000 category with support by the 200-day and this macro down sloping trend line. So that's what I'm watching for Bitcoin here. We're going to flip over to the altcoins. I'm not really interested in Ethereum still. Ethereum Bitcoin still does not look that good. Total 3 looks better here. So we'll take a quick look at Total 3. Breaking out of this trend line, as we said, we're in uptrending price action. We are hitting this resistance zone right in here. So we'll see if we can keep that. We'll flip to the daily, see how it looks. Take that. So what we see here, essentially what we're looking for, similar to what we saw on this breakout. We'll pull up our momentum indicators and then just adjust those so they're a little bit cleaner for you. We can pretty much see if we look at the prior breakout, right in through here, we came into deeply oversold, started uptrending that the RSI here, same with the MACD uptrending, and then we started to gain some bullish momentum in through here. You can kind of see, although it was a little bit of gain bullish momentum, it still is kind of uncertain. So in through here, a little bit of uncertainty, volatility, but we're getting what looks like that bullish cross right here on the directional movement index. So we want to see that continue, but similar to what we saw here, it wasn't just a straight break. We had to actually break out, hold that 50-day as support. So that's what I want to see here. We're coming into the 50-day right now. If we can continue this uptrending structure, let's say we get another higher low, another higher high, higher low. We're holding that 50-day as support. That's going to be a good swing entry right there, in my opinion. So watching Total 3. I'm going to flip to some specific altcoins, ones that I think have just been performing a little bit better than some of the others. That being said, on the low time frame here, we are looking a little bit more overheated. We'll take a look at the 4-hour. This is Fetch AI. We'll take a look at the price action. So essentially, I saw this, someone in my Telegram group pointed this out to me. We saw some strength in Fetch. A bit of an inverse head and shoulders. It is a very dubious one just for reference. If you're doing inverse head and shoulders, you want that neckline to be upsloping ideally. A lot of people do consider these valid as well, so I kind of just drew it in there just to give you that idea of the price action. But we have broken above our short-term moving averages. We got back above this key support level here. We're above the 50-day moving average. We're above the VRVP point of control. So now what I want to see, Fetch is looking really good. It could just continue this move up. I want to see potentially one more push past these highs. Watch those higher lows, get in on that, and then look for that move kind of back in towards the 200-day moving average. That's going to be a potential trade there. So Fetch, definitely interested in them performing very well, especially lately. We've seen Chainlink up today doing well. It did lose this trend line. It has regained it for now. So Chainlink is another one. Again, we're kind of just within this resistance zone. We want to see that continued higher high, higher low price action. The momentum indicators are looking good. Bullish momentum here on the 4-hour. So I do think we can get that little bit of push higher and then come in, put in those higher lows, maybe retesting the 200-week moving average, holding it as support, and then continuing up from there. So there's a potential opportunity with Link there. Looking at Solana, Solana has broken out. It's back above the 200 or the 50-day as well. So similar to Link, as long as we can hold this price action, let's take a look at it on the daily. We see here, yeah, so still looking pretty good. Look at our momentum indicators. Excuse me. So losing a little bit of momentum here for Solana on the daily. That's okay for now, as long as this holds. Still interested in potentially getting in on that higher low. So if we take our Fibonacci, similar to what we did with our other assets here, you're looking at an entry for Solana. If you get under 115 down to 105, you know, it could be a really good opportunity to get into Solana. If you don't have a position and we think the market is going to continue up, we're going to look at Ondo really quick here. So Ondo is one that has broken out of the long downtrend. We get into this uptrend here. So we take a look. We're in a bull flag pattern. So if we do break out of this bull flag, which seems to be like what is happening, maybe we can get another little push up for a more convincing break. Let's take a look at the momentum indicators. Vortex looks good. RSI looks okay. It's kind of curling back over. So kind of indecisive here for now. Let's continue just watching this. Otherwise, look for that breakout, that back test of the 50, the 200 day, coming back, holding this as support, and then continuing up from there. Ondo's looking really good, actually. I would look at a long position, you know, something like this. Sorry, I already have the long position drawn, but I'll draw you the path. So breaking out, retesting our moving averages here. Come in, high or low, holding our VRVP point of control, and then that's the trade entry rate here. As long as our momentum indicators look nice and reset on that retest, so pay attention to that. Avalanche here also, so a lot of these guys looking quite similar. We're kind of getting these breakouts, the retests of the 50-day or the 50-day moving averages. So AVAX also continues uptrending price action, you know, broken out above that 50-day. Let's see if it can come back, hold the VRVP point of control. That Fibonacci level is going to coincide with the price of about $20 up to $20.20. So paying attention to that. But AVAX is another one that I like, and it has kind of broken out of these long downtrends. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for assets that have kind of broken out of the long downtrends that aren't stuck under as much major resistance. So a lot of alts, they're kind of in a similar setup like this, where they have these horizontal support zones. We break below them and then we're stuck below them. That's more bearish than kind of this setup here, where we've broke out of the downtrend, we've held the key level of support, we've started to build uptrending price action, at least on the daily chart here, and we've also started to regain some of our key moving averages. So right here, we put in that higher, we put in a higher low, higher high. So now we just need to put in that higher low to have that kind of confirmed uptrend on the daily. Uptrends on the daily, they are more dubious than the weekly, and they can break down, so you need to be careful. That's why when I enter based on the daily chart, generally I do use a stop loss to protect that position, so keep that in mind. But AVAX is another opportunity. Render here as well, same thing, similar kind of price action, big high time frame downtrend breakout. We had this nice extension rally above the 50-day moving average. So watch for this retest here. I would even be looking for $3.70 down to $3.15 as a potential buying range for Render, as a swing trade for initially, and then stop loss below support, obviously. And then hopefully riding that to that continuation on the upside. Injective here. Also another one, not quite as strong as some of the others, has broken out, is holding those lows. It's just gotten above that 8-day, 21-day EMA, so a little bit earlier than some of the other ones we've seen that have actually pushed up towards their 50-day moving averages. So Injective, a little bit less weak. I still like them, still considering them to accumulate. So we'll be watching this one for that another retest, higher low, potentially get in on that opportunity. If we take a look at the 4-hour, see what it looks like. So bullish on the 4-hour, looking pretty good. So yeah, pay attention. Either we go up, tag that 50-day, come back, we get our higher low entry confirmation, and continue from there. AIOZ looking like this one's pretty strong as well. So we also saw it kind of breaking out of this bull flag structure. Big volume bar here, breaking out of the high time frame downtrend, poking into the 50-day moving average. So pay attention here. What we're looking for is that higher low, hold of the lows, something maybe we're looking at a 20, if 27.5 can hold, we could look for that entry there, potentially riding that and entering. Remember, if you enter these swing trades, they are swing trades. You need to treat them a little bit more conservatively. It's just daily confirmation for now. We do not have weekly confirmation, so we need to pay attention. If we look here, what would be a likely target for us to enter here? We can kind of see, zoom out all the way. We pretty much have all this resistance in through here. So if we look like that, we pull our resistance zone, and then that could be a potential target for a swing trade for AIOZ. So we'll just pay attention to that. So if you're taking this trade, look to ride it up, upwards to this resistance zone. But it's not going to be straight up. It's going to offer multiple opportunities, higher lows to get in, build those positions. But AIOZ looks pretty good. Tau also looking really good here. It's broken out of that wedge. So Tau looking strong. We want to see that back test, come in here. If we can get an entry back below 275, it could be a good swing trade opportunity for Tau. So pay attention to that one. Yeah, just we want those higher lows. For now, it's kind of already left, you know, not really worth taking that risk. Now I'm looking at Stacks here. Stacks is also kind of broken out, so we see this long downtrend here, but we also got our kind of slightly higher time frame downtrend. Essentially just breaking out of this, putting in that higher low, higher high. So watch for that retest of the 50-day moving average, and then we'll see if we can get a little bit more relief for Stacks. So Stacks is a DeFi option on Bitcoin, kind of very interesting play. So paying attention to that. But yeah, on the 4-hour momentum indicators, a little bit more overheated, losing momentum. So I do think we come back and we retest these levels here. Moving on to lastly, just SUI up 10% today, so doing really well. It is holding the lows. We take a look at the daily chart. We can kind of see here, holding those lows here, so one higher low. We haven't yet been able to take out this high, so that's going to be my first thing I want to see. I want to see this high get taken out, and then I want to see a back test and a hold of the lows. So something like this is what I want to see. Then we come back, retest the 50-day, and we can continue up. You could play this by entering here as well as here, treating both as swing trade opportunities, so making sure you have that stop loss under support. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. You know, there's a ton going on right now. Bitcoin almost at 91,000, USDT dominance breaking down, Ethereum's pumping a little bit, but altcoins are kind of outperforming. Total 3 here, really getting that initial breakout. So this could be at least the start of our relief bounce, our relief rally. And for altcoins, that can be a pretty big move. Like you could get a 50 to 100% relief bounce in an altcoin, even to a dead cat lower high. So we're going to try and take advantage of that. These are a bunch of alts that I think are showing good relative strength. I think they're showing strong bullish price action. So now we just need the bullish price action to continue. We need the moving averages to kind of get stacked in our favor, and we need all of our momentum indicators to reset themselves. So when I say watch for these guys, obviously I'm not going to be able to update you on all of them every hour or so as things go on. Watch for those retests. Watch for them regaining key levels, key moving averages. When they do come back, as long as they're maintaining that uptrending price action, at least on the daily chart. The 4-hour chart too, if you're looking for a shorter term swing trade, but make sure you're really strong, you're really confident in that confirmation. And then ultimately waiting for those entries, coming back to our levels of support, enter there, protect it with a stop loss, ride it to the upside, and book profits as it comes. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.